How am I going to split up my training? It's the whats, it's the wheres, it's the hows. And we would consider such things like, what body parts are we going to train? How often are we going to train them? What days are we going to put them on? In what order? Essentially, it is the overarching plan of your training. It is, if we zoom out as far as we possibly can on your training plan, it's the split essentially that is going to be the first macro part of what we're looking at, the major area of what we're looking at. Everything cascades down from the training split. Hi, my name is Andy Naylor. I am founder and CEO of Naylor Body Design and host of the Optimal Alpha podcast. Welcome back to the show, my guys. Now, if I gave somebody, let's say, 3 days of training and each day was full body, that's incredibly challenging to do it well. Incredibly challenging. But most people would look at a full body day of training and be like, well, I'm better than that. I'm more advanced than that. Which is such an awful way of looking at training. Because if you could go in and train 3 days a week and hit your whole body 3 times, that would be and you did it well, and I mean really well, with high intensity and effort and focus and attention and drive, it'd be extremely hard to recover from, but you could make incredible progress. But people would look at a full body split and think that they're past that, and think that they need to do a bro split or push-pull legs, or people want to do the most exotic split that they can get their hands on because they think that's where the results are. That's absolute bullshit. The split, all we're trying to work out with the split is how can we be the most effective and efficient with the time that you've got. So that moves us on to our really the only other major section that we need to cover today, which is how do I work out what is the most optimal split for me? Because what's right for you is not right for me, is not right for someone else. It has to be individualized. And the very first thing that I consider when I'm working out a split for somebody is how many days can somebody train in a given week? Because that is going to determine pretty much every choice thereafter. If a client says to us, I can train as many days as you like, okay, cool, we would move on to the next question. But most people don't. Most people would say, okay, look, I've got a family, I'm busy with my business, etc., etc. I can do 4 days. I can do 3 days. Like they're the sort of common numbers. Okay, so now we have part of the playing field has been created. Okay, how many days can you train? How much time have you got per session? Okay, so I'm really time limited. I can't go past an hour. Some people might say, I could be in there 2 hours. I don't really care. Like again, now we know how much work can we put inside a singular session? We would also then need to ask, okay, but how well can someone recover and put all their effort in for an hour and a half, 2 hours? Okay, so more questions. Then, of course, what's the bloody goal? Like, here's a really good example. Push-pull legs isn't optimal for a lot of people. Why? Because most people don't have great legs. But push-pull legs is only 1/3 leg training and 2/3 upper body. So if someone has lagging legs, why on earth would they do push-pull legs? Doesn't make any sense when you think about it that way, because it's literally push-pull legs is putting massive emphasis, the majority of the emphasis on the upper body. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it works quite well for me because my legs are just genetically ahead of my upper body. Push-pull legs would fit quite well for me because one, I can quite happily get away with training my legs less than my upper body, and I need a better upper body than I do legs. So push-pull legs fits me. Now, what happens if someone's the other way around and they are well-developed upper body, but they're lagging in legs? Push-pull legs is a really bad split for them. So what's the goal? Alphas, I interrupt this show with a simple message. This show is here to benefit you and your progression to the best version of yourself. But not only just you, it's also here to benefit the people around you, your loved ones, your friends, other alphas in your vicinity. So why not do a really cool thing today?
something that I would thank you for, and maybe someone else would. Share this podcast with at least one other alpha out there who you know would benefit from it. Why not share the information, share the ability for someone else to grow? I'm sure they would thank you. I 100% would absolutely thank you. This podcast only grows by our listeners, our followers doing amazing things like giving us 5-star reviews, downloading podcasts, subscribing, and then of course sharing it with other people. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Share it with one person, and of course drop us a 5-star review, download the podcast, and of course subscribe. And now back to the show.
Then we would look at, okay, so what are the lagging body parts, which is what I've just mentioned here, right? So for example, and this is not necessarily split, but there is a part to it. My arms are not a strong part for me. So in my split, I would make sure that my arms are catered for more often. In other words, on my leg days, I do biceps first. Now, we're nearly getting into exercise selection when we think about putting biceps before legs and something like that. But ultimately, my split would basically be whatever it is, and then biceps, legs. It's not just a leg day, it's biceps, legs. Because I need to put biceps in more often. And putting biceps before legs has absolutely no negative impact on the ability for me to go absolutely ham on my legs, right? So what are the lagging body parts? How do we create a split that will take care of that? What are my limitations? Do I have any injuries? Do I have any surgeries? Are any of those things that need to be taken into consideration? Because if let's say we're doing a very upper body, like a push-pull legs, a very upper body focused split, and we're just coming back from shoulder surgery or a rotator cuff tear or something along those lines. Now all of a sudden putting emphasis in a certain area of the body is just going to cause us problems, recovery issues, maybe more potential injuries, right? So once we start to answer those questions, now everybody's going to be different. As I've gone through and they're just some of the considerations, and as I've gone through those, hopefully you've thought, oh, okay, well, this would be me here, and I need to focus on this, and I can train 5 days a week, and et cetera, et cetera. So then what would it actually look like? So some of those splits fall really well into certain amounts of time. And I've mentioned this already, but let's talk about, let's say we had 3 days to train. Now, if we had 3 days to train and we just did push-pull legs, that means we train every body part once per week. There's nothing wrong with that, but is it optimal? Miles from optimal. Unless you're incredibly advanced in terms of your ability to train and train very, very hard, which, let's be honest, we're not, right? We're not. Unless we're IFBB pros and genetically gifted, we're not. We're not in that 1%. I certainly aren't. So now we need to think more smartly along, okay, how can I get the most out of 3 days? This is where full body comes in particularly well. Because now we can train our full body. Each day doesn't need to look the same. Each day can be slightly different. Like if I was to set someone up a 3-day full body plan, on the beginning of one day, it would be legs, and then push and then pull, for example, right? In upper body, different parts of the upper body. And then the next day, it would be push first, then it would be pull first. So I would rotate what the first thing is that I do each time. So I'm fresh at the beginning of everyone. So nothing is overemphasized unless I want to overemphasize. Let's say I want to do 3 full bodies and I really need more legs. I would just do legs at the beginning of every full body. But it's probably the most efficient way to set up 3 days of training. Could you do upper, lower? You could, but it's just same as push, pull legs. You could do lower, upper, lower. So now you've got 3 days of training. You get to train your legs twice and your upper body once. Like, that's entirely possible. But ultimately, I would say for someone looking to do 3 days, full body split is the best way to go. Now let's move on to someone who can train 4 days. Suddenly the options are completely different. We could go upper, lower, upper, lower. I favor that a lot. We now train, it's completely balanced. If someone needs a completely balanced physique, they don't need anything more or less than anything else, which is a lot of people, let's be honest. Most people need systemic growth, to be honest. So now we've got upper, lower, upper, lower. It's balanced across the body, and everything gets trained twice in a week. So now everything's got 104 chances for progress across a year rather than 52. We could also do the bro split. So we could do the chest day, the back day, the shoulder day, the leg day. That would also work. We could also do a push, pull, legs, and then an upper or another lower. Okay, so you could do a full push day, a full pull day, a full leg day, and then someone who needs more upper body would go upper. That's now 3 uppers and 1 lower. Okay, or you could go push, pull, legs. Well, it would be push, legs, pull, legs, right? Which is nearly the same as upper, lower, upper, lower. Like there's some definite crossover in some of these. 5 days, I mean, goodness me, that like now at this point, the options are endless. You could now go push, pull, legs, upper, lower. That's a great split. Personally, I really like that for 5 days of training. Push, pull, legs, and then everything upper again and everything lower again. That works well. You could also turn a bro split into 5 days. You would be, I don't know, a chest day, a back day, a shoulder day, a leg day, an arm day. That's pretty cool. A lot of people would really enjoy that. Is it optimal? Not really. Could it be really enjoyable? Yeah, like it could for sure. A lot of people like to do a lot of training on one body part at a time, hence bro splits. And this is also a slightly non-advanced way of looking at things. So, my guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. By all means, reach out, tag me on the socials, show me the split that you're doing, ask me if you think it's the right one. I'm happy to get into those conversations. But for now, thank you so much for dropping by. I appreciate it. As always, if you've liked the show, you found some value, hey, give us a 5-star review. We appreciate that. Maybe download the episode, maybe subscribe to the podcast. It helps us, and I would appreciate you. And for now, over and out. Go and have the best day.